Have I ever told you the story of that time I got mugged by a guy with a knife? I always love telling that story when it comes up, but I can't blame you if you think it's fake. It sounds straight up out of r/that happened, and then everybody clap. Source, dude, trust me. But that being said, I will swear to you and any polygraph willing to take me up on it, this is a true story. If you still want to call fake at the end, that's your prerogative, and I'm not here to convince you, just want to tell you a bit about my past, more precisely, one night in particular when I was 18 years old. This story is about 15 years old at this point, so let's wind back time a bit. Remember video clubs? For all the Zoomers, before Netflix and Twitch and YouTube, we didn't have any other way to watch TV and movies either on cable or through renting them. Remember Blockbusters? Wow, you didn't sound 1,000-year-old just then. Okay, Grandpa, cool. Don't forget to take your meds before the Viet Cong raid your bedroom again. I used to work at one, except it wasn't the brand Blockbuster. Nah, it was called Le Club La France in a tiny boondock town I grew up in French Canada. Growing up, I used to go to that place, rent movies and video games my entire life, so when it came time to get a job, heck yeah, it was the coolest gig in town. It was either that or mixing paint at Walmart. It still is a tiny town. So anyway, I ended up getting the job, and for the best part of 10 months, I had pretty mundane tasks. Man the clients when they came up to the register with the movie they wanted to borrow, call people who wouldn't bring back their rental on time, late fees, cleanup, and managing inventory of the movies. And for all this, I was paid the modest sum of $10 an hour, which these days can't get you much, but back in 2005 it was an okay startup. On the bright side, whenever there was downtime, I was allowed to watch movies on the big screen, or even hook up video games to play. The owner didn't mind as long as I would get the job done. Now, at La France, there weren't a lot of employees. Beside me and the two owners who were barely there, it was two other girls. One named Catherine, a young aspiring legal aid, and a girl named Dominic, who was on the swimming team with my sister. Being the only guy employee, I always ended up with the late shift, so I would close up the shop at 10 p.m. and head back home after making sure everything was taken care of. Before we go even further in this story, I need to explain to you the layout of the place. It was a weird L shape, like a capital L. You'd come in from the long part of the L, and then the rest of the shop would turn into a 90-degree angle, and you'd get to the back part, and the rest of the selection of the movies. The register I was manning was in the inside part of the L, and there was a giant pillar separating my counter to another section of the counter on the other bracket. So here's a weird plan I made in MS Paint. Now we get to the story. So it was a cold November night. I remember the time like it was yesterday. It was snowing outside, because Canada is just an excuse away from shoveling snow. Generally by 9 p.m. we wouldn't get a lot of clients, 5 top if it was a busy night. And this was a Thursday, so again, not expecting much out of it. I decided to get an early jump on my cleanup and get everything done by 9:30. I remember putting the vacuum away and looking into the parking lot just to see a car pull up. Just my luck, I remember thinking, but something was odd about the car. The headlights wouldn't turn off. Whatever, I get behind my register and wait for anyone to walk in. There's 30 minutes left before the end of my shift, so I pick up one of the brand new movie we had received and I start reading the back cover. One of my tasks was to be able to recommend movies to people asking about them, so I had to know as many as possible. Again, I remember clearly it was The Lady in the Water, 2006. I'm halfway through the synopsis when the doorbells twinkle. Not being good at multitasking, I chip a "Hey, how you doing?" while barely glancing at the guy. But that's just enough for me to sear him in my memory. Baggy jeans barely hanging onto him, 5 o'clock shadow beard, and a black hoodie with a silver zipper in the front pulled all the way over his head. Pretty young, in his early 20s, give or take, but he's pretty short, 5'4", 5'6" at best, which is laughable comparing to my towering 6'5". Anyway, guy barely waves back and head in the back part of the shop while I keep reading the synopsis. Spoiler alert, it's a pretty shit movie. So the guy does a weird sweep of the video club. In hindsight, I'm guessing he was making sure nobody else was around, or probably spotting where the security camera were. But after 5 minutes, he finally get to my register. Mind you, I've paid him not a lot of attention at that point, but see him awkwardly shift in front of the register. I go up to the counter, which is about 1 meter wide or 3 feet wide, and I go, "Did you find something good?" He replies softly and shakily, "Give me the register." And then my eyes just tighten. Like, the dude has just offended my entire lineage and pissed on my tomb. I go, "What did you say?" Now again, in hindsight, terrible way to handle this scenario. Let me back you up. I'm paid $10 an hour. That's not a lot of wiggle room to be a fucking hero. But here I am doubling down on this guy who came into my kingdom asking for my sacred holy grail. And the guy replied this time louder. I said, "Give me the money," and he pulls out a knife in what I assume is what he thought was a threatening way. Which again, if you're in a similar scenario, definitely do not fuck around. Places like that are insured, unbeknownst to me at that time, so you know what I did? I fucking lost it. You know the term fight or flight or freeze? I did neither of those. I started chuckling, probably nervously. You know how when you're not supposed to find something funny, it's suddenly 100 times more hilarious? The dude's holding a knife pointed at me and I'm just laughing. I'm losing my shit. But he starts holding it higher to be more threatening or something, and I just go, look, I close in like 15 minutes. Do you really want to do this? But the guy doubles down, which I understand. He's gone this far at this point, so I go, alrighty then. Now, what I didn't tell you so far is that right underneath the cash register, leaning against the pillar, is a wooden baseball bat, but he can't see it from where he is. So I palm it in my hand and toss it to my left. Open the register, which makes a ding noise, which drags his attention for a split second, and I thwack him right across the face. I hit him straight on his right temple, and the dude is sent flying into the pillar where he smacks his face and then falls on the ground. He fumbles to get his knife back, and then he just runs towards the exit. The entire scene looked like a Scooby-Doo character running away from a ghost. I swear I heard the sound effect in my head while he was hightailing it. So now I got like 100 grams of adrenaline coursing through my entire body. I'm supposed to close the shop in like 10 minutes, and I got an attempted robbery on me for legit $80. That's how much that was in the register. So I decided to call the owner, and I'm like, "Hey, Mrs. K, so someone just tried to rob me?" And she's like, "What the fuck, are you okay?" And honestly, I was pretty good overall. My pride was absolutely offended. I mean, the audacity? The dude thought he could rob me? In hindsight, I was an absolute reckless moron who got unbelievably lucky. If you're ever in a similar scenario, do not be a brazen idiot. Give them the money. Places like that are insured and your life is worth more than $80, especially when you make barely 10 yourself an hour. Sorry for the long break since the last video. Took a bit of a hiatus, just had to step away from pretty much everything for a bit. And since life keeps on going on, I'm gonna have a real job for the first time in like 7 years. YouTube doesn't pay much anymore these days, so that'll be interesting, I'm sure. I'll try to make more videos, but I can't say how often they'll be. Thanks for everything. Hope you liked that story. It's a little bit different than usual, but I'll see you soon. Next time. Hard times, I've been on the wrong side, I've been ashamed. So many memories, you know I'd like to change.